Hey friends, I'm Amanda from the Inky Panda, and today we're going to be talking about the Copperplate basic strokes. This video is the second in a three-part series in which I go through each individual basic stroke and give you my own personal tips and tricks on how I execute each one. In this video, we're going to be talking about the underturn, the compound curve, and the full pressure stroke. So make sure you have your favorite calligraphy supplies, and let's get started. The next stroke that we're going to talk about is the underturn. This is a mirror opposite of the overturn. So to check for consistency, you can actually flip your page upside down and you should see one stroke or the other. So let's go through my tips for executing this stroke. This stroke is only as tall as your X height. It goes only between your header line and your base line. And the width of this stroke should be the same width as your oval. So imagine an oval fits right inside here. You begin at the header line, starting with a squared top, proceed downwards with a shade along the 55-degree slant till you reach about halfway. Once you reach this point, that's when you start to release your pressure to start to taper your slope and bring it down to a hairline. Remember, just like with the overturn, you want to make sure that you're staying a hairline close to the base of your stroke, or the baseline in this case, because that allows your stroke to remain delicate and not seem too heavy. The lowest part of your curve should be the part that touches the baseline. Then you continue to curve upwards. Once you reach about a third of the way up to maybe about halfway, that portion and beyond stays on the 55-degree slant. So it should be basically a straight line. Then you finish the stroke once you reach the header line again. As you can see with this stroke, similar to the oval, which we reviewed previously, there is a straight portion of the shade, which is the right side, and there's a curved portion of the shade, which is on the left side. So if you remember when we did it with the oval, you want to make sure you plant your right tine, and it's your left tine that's going to be doing the moving. As you're tapering down, it's the left tine that closes towards the right tine and brings that curve in. So I'll show you again. As you're going down, you release pressure, and it's your left tine that moves towards your right. And you achieve that by rotating it slightly to the right, so it's your left tine that does the moving. So let's go through and practice a couple of these strokes together. So you begin at the header line, rotating slightly to the right. You're going to plant your tine, and that's what gives you the squared top. Come down about halfway, start to release pressure, and finish that off. And if you want to square off your top, don't be afraid to touch it up afterwards. Let's do it again. And one more time. Squared top, down, taper, hairline, back up. This stroke is called the compound curve. It's actually a combination of the overturn and the underturn joined together. If you imagine this stroke cut in half, this portion is where you begin with the overturn, proceed with the shade, and then you switch right here and you finish it with an underturn. So this stroke is only as tall as your X height. Again, it falls between your header line and your baseline. You begin this stroke down here with a hairline proceeding along the 55-degree slant until you reach about a third to halfway from the header line. That's when you start your curve. The peak of this curve should, again, just be like the overturn at the header line. That's as tall as you get. Then as you proceed over the arch and you come down on your 55-degree slant, you're going to have to apply pressure. This is where you need to go slow. Apply pressure. The widest part of your stroke should be right about halfway between your header line and your baseline, because right at that point, you're going to taper down the other way. So then you start to release pressure until you reach the baseline, which should be where the base of this curve touches. This is a hairline. As you proceed, you continue on the curve. Once you reach about a third to halfway, then you're going to proceed straight up on the 55-degree slant. So as you can see, it is literally a combination of the overturn and the underturn. It can get a little tricky once you do the shade in between because you have to mentally prepare and switch between both strokes. That's why it helps to actually go as slow as possible. It allows your mind to speak to your hand and make sure that everyone is on the same page. Oftentimes what we find is that if you're going too fast, once you make that decision to switch, you've already moved past the point where you should switch. And then the base of your curve right here ends up being a little heavy and it looks a little weighted on the bottom. So let's go through these and we'll practice it together. Starting as a hairline, proceeding upwards. Start your curve, continue your curve on the slant, apply pressure, release pressure, coming back up on slant. Now, I forgot to mention the width of this stroke is 2 oval widths because, like we said multiple times before, we're combining the overturn and the underturn. So you have to imagine that an oval will fit in here and an oval will fit in here. That way, this is essentially 2 oval widths wide. We'll do it one more time in practice. This is called the full pressure stroke. I still find it tricky with this stroke sometimes, keeping a consistent pressure as I proceed down through the shade so that the width of the shade is the same all the way through. The key to this one, as with all the other basic strokes, is to go slow. As you can see, this stroke starts at the first ascending line and proceeds all the way down to the first descending line. So it's actually 3 x heights tall, 3 spaces. It's entirely on the 55-degree slant, and it has a squared top and a squared bottom. The width of this shade should stay consistent all the way through, and it should actually be only as thick as the shades of all your other strokes. A lot of times you'll find that as you're proceeding, it's a lot easier to do it with a wider shade. So this one is more commonly the thicker of the shades in comparison to the other strokes. But the proper way to do it is to maintain the same thickness. So if you have a very thick shade here, all your other basic strokes should also have the same shade width, and vice versa. If it's very narrow, they should also follow suit. To obtain the squared top, you're going to tilt your hand slightly to the right. That makes sure that the left hind is the one that flexes and moves. As you proceed downwards, you're going to maintain the slant until you reach the bottom. Then you're going to gradually release pressure, and you can see the right hind actually slides to the left, meeting the left hind, and that's how you get your squared bottom. Remember, don't be afraid to touch it up if you find that it's not quite what you wanted at the end. So let's go through these together. Last one.
Thanks for visiting my studio today. Leave me a message in the comments below about any other future topics you'd like me to cover. Don't forget to check out the other videos in this series, which review other basic strokes that we didn't talk about in this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye, friends!